If you follow me on TikTok, you know that I have some thoughts about this movie. Also, I just got these glasses in the mail, and this will be the trial run because I'm not entirely sure about this look. We're trying new things. So, today we'll be talking about Primate, directed by Johannes Roberts. This is also the person that did both 47 Meters Down movies, which I really enjoy, actually. He also did Strangers Pray at Night, which is the sequel to the original Strangers movie. And this has actually one of my favorite horror scenes of all time, so kind of exciting. This one stars Johnny Sequoia, Gia Hunter, and Troy Kotzer. A group of friends' tropical vacation turns into a terrifying primal tale of horror and survival. So this is an animal attack slasher. Obviously, it takes place in a sort of isolated location over the course of maybe like 24 hours. So there's not a ton of themes here. I think animal attack movies have a sort of unintended consequences. Unintended sometimes, but you know, they sort of act as a cautionary tale. And I feel like that is summed up perfectly by one of the characters' lines in this movie where he says, "Who the fuck has a pet chimpanzee?" You could read into some themes about human resilience and like family, but we're really all here for the the animal attack portion of the movie. So I find that these kinds of movies tend to be really fun when investigating the way that they portray the animals. For instance, we think about movies like Jaws, where they obviously built this giant animatronic shark. For the 47 Meters Down franchise, I believe that the shark was entirely CGI, which of course, it makes a lot of sense considering this setting. But then you also have things like Grizzly from 1976, where they had an actual bear on set, and he was a Kodiak bear, nicknamed Teddy. And so they just kind of switch between shots of the bear and like a human person wearing like bear puppet arms during the attack sequences. And then in the movie Backcountry, they had two bears to film the bear sequences, but then use CGI for the attack scenes. What's really cool about Primate is that the monkey is actually a person in a costume. And this person has a very unique way of movement and acting that really lends itself to this role. There's a pretty neat article in Bloody Disgusting talking about the casting process for this, because originally I guess they had cast like a younger actor, but she just didn't have quite what they were looking for in terms of like the animal movements. So the person they ended up casting for this is Miguel Torres Umbra, who I guess just had exactly what they were looking for in terms of his like physical performance. And now having seen the movie, it's actually, I think I agree that they picked the perfect person. I think if you got a fully CGI chimp on screen, you wouldn't get the same reactions from the actors. It just like it worked out really well the way that they chose to do it. The overall plot was fine. I think that the self-contained nature of the setting and the like short timeline worked really well for this story. So I wanted to get some points of praise in there before I talk very vaguely without spoilers about some of the plotting that really frustrated me. There is a lot of writing in this movie where the characters just don't think about what they're doing, and it lends itself to some really frustrating moments where I personally was internally just like screaming in the theater. The writing just gets a little wonky at points. I think the performances themselves are pretty good, like from the human characters, but they just, I mean, obviously, there's only so much you can do with like really kind of silly writing at a lot of points. I think the buildup became a little bit tedious as well. They were trying to do some introductions to these characters, and ultimately I didn't really care about any of them, so that just felt a little bit tedious. Like I was ready to just get into into the action, you know what I mean? This movie was a pleasant surprise in terms of the fright aspect. I think I wasn't really expecting it to be quite as gory as it was, and it really delivered in that area. There were some really gnarly kills and some really excellently done moments of tension tension. I think the overall design of Ben the chimpanzee was pretty spooky, especially like the sicker and more blood covered he gets. I honestly think this was the strongest element of the movie. And when it leans into the like slasher elements and the gory elements, it's a lot of fun. So we'll get into spoilers next. So this sounds like a movie that you would be interested in if you like animal attack movies, if you're down for a little bit of like spooky suspense and gore, definitely check this one out. So, I want to approach spoilers from the point of view of my girl Hannah, who is played by Jess Alexander, because I genuinely think that she is the unsung hero of this movie. So, think about it from this perspective. So, you get invited by a close friend to spend the summer with her in Hawaii, and you go with her, her brother, and a friend of theirs who's kind of has like a mysterious backstory and is kind of like grumpy. And so you get to her house and it turns out that there is a wild animal living there and everyone is just like hee hee, like that's totally cool, like we love that. So she's the only one who's kind of put off by the fact that there is a wild animal living in this house. So of course it's explained that the main character Lucy, her mother, was a linguistics professor who developed this friendship with a chimp that she fostered. And so it's like the thing about this family. So it's her husband who is deaf, who teaches sign language to the chimp, and then their two daughters. And the mother tragically passes away from cancer. So it's just like the three of them now, plus Ben, the monkey, the primate, the chimpanzee. Ben gets bit by a mongoose, of all things. And apparently there are no rabies on Hawaii, except for this one mongoose. So I guess that solves the question of like, why aren't we worried about this? Because the dad has to go away on some kind of press tour and leaves this group of teenagers with a sick monkey. But they're like not worried about it because he couldn't get rabies, of course. And so after he's bit by the mongoose and the dad goes away, he becomes sicker and sicker and more aggressive. So one of the main things in the movie, one of like the main conflicts is that the entire group gets stuck in a swimming pool. And let me just say that I think that this director has a sort of penchant for swimming pool and like water related scenes. And if you've seen Strangers Pray at Night, you know that it has an excellent and very iconic pool scene. So this group is trapped in the pool. They don't have a phone, so they're trying to like figure out how to get past the rabid chimpanzee and call the police. And so here begins, or maybe it doesn't begin. I think my issue begins with the fact that they have a primate living in their house. I know he has an enclosure, but still, it's a wild animal, and I feel like it's weird when people have wild animals for pets, especially when they put clothes on them. I think there's been cases of people being attacked by chimpanzees. So I just think that's where we went wrong. We should have never been in this position in general, especially Hannah, because she did not consent to this. Everybody else knew about this, but she did not. And I would have been pissed. I might have not left because it was a very nice house and the promise of hanging out in this house would have been very tempting, even though there was a chimpanzee there. But I digress. So anyway, one of my biggest issues is that obviously when an animal becomes rabid, they become hydrophobic. I'm not an expert on rabies, so maybe this happens later, but I'm assuming that that's like one of the first symptoms. And so the brother of the only male character who's stuck in the pool tries to push the chimp off of this like pool, this cliffside pool, but ends up getting himself like thrown off. Why are we not splashing? Why are we not trying to use the tools at our disposal, right? If the monkey is hydrophobic, why aren't we, at least trying to splash? But no, we don't try that. We also don't try that once once Ben goes away and the two, Lucy and her best friend, get out of the pool to go and find a phone. First of all, they don't bring any implements that could potentially protect them like, I don't know, one of those like sticks that people use to, like the nets, the long nets that people use to clean a pool. They don't bring one of those. There's a scene earlier in the movie where they are squirting each other with squirt guns. Why not pick up a squirt gun? I just feel like there were so many opportunities to make this much less dangerous than it ended up being. There's another scene where they're in the house like looking for the phone, and Ben's nowhere to be found, and they accidentally turn on the TV, which makes a loud noise. But then they just stand there for a while, like waiting, and don't pick up the phone when they run into their hiding spot. There's so many moments in that movie where I was just like, can you, like, the decision making and the planning and the forethought was just not there. And there was just so many moments like this. Like, I was so distracted by how dumb, especially Lucy is. Lucy, it's really the trio of idiots is Lucy and her family. Lucy, her dad, and her sister are all idiots. Everyone else, I think the brother and the sister, the best friend and her brother, those two are kind of like idiot sympathizers, so they kind of deserved what came to them anyway. My girl Hannah did not deserve this because she was really the main person who was thinking straight. And there were just so many moments. There's another moment where they escape from the house, and Ben is on the other side of like a glass door with like this giant handle. Like, honestly, it was a handle so big, I swear my dog could open this door. Like, it really, especially this chimpanzee who can like make sign language and like knows, I don't know, 1,000 words or something. He could open the door clearly, but they're sitting there kind of like watching and waiting to see if he figures out how to open the door. And then he goes away, and then they sit there for another eternity, and then he like runs and breaks the door, clearly, because it's glass. And I don't know, there's just so many examples of this where the thought process was just not there. Another issue I have with the writing is during my girl Hannah's death scene, unfortunately, she's able to leave the pool, leave the house with a pair of car keys and a phone, but she gets into the wrong car, so she can't drive off. So she's calling the police, thankfully. She had enough brain power to do that. Come on, girl. So she calls 911. She doesn't know where the house is because she doesn't live there, but she's trying to get out of this situation even though she's not able to like drive off, right? And Ben walks up with the keys to that car and does so in a very like intentionally vindictive way, as if he's sort of gained sentience. Well, not sentience, I don't know what the word would be. I mean, obviously he's a chimpanzee, so he's smart, but he all of a sudden becomes like ghoulish in his like evil intentions, which I found really weird. Like, all of a sudden he had like the ability to, like, he wasn't just rabid and crazy and aggressive. All of a sudden he has like evil villain vibes to him. I don't know. I just found that kind of goofy. So with all of this happening, all of this idiocy, we do still get some really excellent kills and some very excellent tension building. There were parts of this movie that I really enjoyed, but I just couldn't with the decision making. So ultimately, everybody dies except for our trio of idiots. The dad comes home, and another issue that I have. So the dad comes home and he's deaf. I feel like, and I'm not an expert, but I feel like we do a disservice to the deaf community in this portrayal, because this man, number one, does not have peripheral vision because he's walking around the house and his daughter is being beaten by a chimpanzee and he doesn't notice. Also, does he not feel the vibrations in the ground or you know what I mean? And then at one point, Lucy is standing behind him and the chimpanzee is also behind him looking at her. She could pick something up and throw it to get his attention. She doesn't do that. Just leaving this man to wander around the house until he finds one of the many dead bodies. So they go back and forth. Lucy ends up killing Ben, and nobody's really sad about it at this point. So they've lost all of their warm and dewy feelings towards this primate that's lived in their house for its entire life at this point. If I were the parents of any of these teenagers, I would sue these people for negligent homicide at the very least, because It is entirely their fault. I'm sorry. I have no sympathy. At the end, you know, they're like hugging and they have this like beautiful moment about like, oh, like you're here now or whatever it might be, but that doesn't really do shit for like the 5 other dead teenagers and the vet who was the first to die, does it? Doesn't really help them out, does it? Did I like this movie? Yes. Did this movie make me very angry? Also, yes. I might rewatch this if it was like, if I in my old age, at my advanced age, if I in my advanced age were the type of person to host slumber parties, this would be a slumber party movie. This feels like a slumber party movie. I don't think I would watch it on my own, but I might show it to someone who I want to piss off, you know, if I'm ever in that mood with that ability. So I don't know. I give this one a 3 out of 5. I didn't dislike it, but there were just a lot of things about it that made me very angry. I don't know. So if you've seen Primate, definitely leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you thought that if you share my views about the decision making in this movie being stupid. Let me know if you feel like Hannah should have been the sole survivor of this entire thing, because I do. Ooh, also, one of the things that happens is the little sister gets bit by Ben. So obviously she has the potential to be infected by rabies. I think a really funny sequel to this would be that the sister gets rabies and then goes after the dad and the sister and another like 5 or 6 dumb teenagers. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe we'll get Primate too. Because she's technically a primate also. Just saying. Anyway, if you stuck with me this long, don't forget to subscribe for more movie reviews. I also do short form content on TikTok and Instagram.